Welcome to the Biblical Show, everyone. We are so excited to be here today to talk to you all about coping with hardships. What you saw in the beginning there is what you will see in the future when it comes to us having a topic that we're going to cover and just kind of introduce it and kind of give you the vibe of what the show is going to be based on. So as you all can see, our topic is coping with hardships, and this topic was really profound. And I told Brandon offline that I took a lot of notes. So what I'm gonna do the best I can to. I'm not gonna rush the topic, but I'm definitely going to be as peppy as possible, and because there's a lot of information, I don't want to bore you, but it's very useful information. It's going to be an eye-opener for you all, and I'm looking forward to talking with you all. I see Starsha's on. Hey, Starsha girl.
Hey, Sasha.
That was our special guest,
Yeah.
Starsha, so shout out to Starsha. So I'll go ahead and get started on coping with hardships.
Okay.
So this topic really hit home, and I listened to the interview several times, and I took some notes on Saturday. So I'll go ahead and begin. So William Irving is a professor of philosophy at Wright State University. He has spent years studying how we respond to setbacks, right, and how we might use ideas from philosophy and psychology to respond differently, which is the title of our episode, Coping with Hardships, coping with setbacks. I didn't want to say setbacks in the title, but coping with setbacks, coping with hardships that we endure. So moving forward, William was asked in the interview about the Groundhog Day movie. Have y'all seen the Groundhog Day movie, Brandon? Have you seen Groundhog Day? It came out in 1993, and it starred Bill Murray.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so I watched that movie too as a child. So the movie is about a TV weatherman by the name of Phil who finds himself reliving the same day over and over again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this I'm talking about like every single day he just kept reliving the same moment on location in a small town to film a report about their annual Groundhog Day. So basically, I looked at it as living in prison on Groundhog Day because he kept waking up on Groundhog Day. So what William realized in the film, the professor, is that Phil was not noticing how his own reactions to his suffering were making things worse. So if you remember in the movie, he was having different emotions, different things going on in his mind, and he was reacting like erratically throughout the whole thing. So basically, his reactions to his suffering was what made things a lot worse. But he couldn't see it for himself. Us as the audience, we were able to see, like, dang, like he is just going through a roller coaster of emotions because he keeps waking up on Groundhog Day. So William stated that much of us have not realized that a lot of what we experience is due to the response of life. So it's due to how we respond to things, not necessarily the thing that is appearing as the setback. So William stated that our response to what the world hands us is as much of a part of our suffering than what the world gives us. So I'm going to say that again. William stated that our response to what the world hands us is as much of a part of our suffering than what the world gives us. He stated that if someone says something obnoxious to you, right, they're just words. If you really think about it, they're just words. What causes the agony is thinking about those words, dwelling on those words, and replaying those words, which could cause more hurt. So it's kind of like that whole terminology. I don't know if y'all heard, like, don't allow what anybody say to you get to you. Like what they say is what they say. It does not dictate who you are as an individual. So in his analogy, he used an analogy of a burst pipe example in a home. And then he connected it to how we all respond to life setbacks. So he stated that the burst pipe is actually not the problem. So, because when you think about it, the burst pipe really isn't the problem. The problem, in addition to that, is you call a plumber. They may take 30 minutes to complete it. It may cost you a couple $100, and then everything's back to normal. So the real problem behind that is that, oh wow, well, there's a collapsed ceiling. There was damage to furniture. So what a lot of people are doing is that they're they're looking at the issue head on and looking at that, but then beneath the surface, there's so much going on. So his statement was, what caused the collapsed ceiling also caused the damaged furniture, and basically there was days and weeks of repair that had to take place. So he was basically stating that the pipe burst was actually not the problem.
Mm.
So he compared that analogy to life setbacks. So he said that someone can say something offensive and obnoxious towards you. It isn't the insult, it is the response to the insult that can cause long-term effects on you. So, and I mean, there's so much more in here, so I'm gonna keep on moving. So William stated that we can't always control what the world does to us, but there's a way by using the Stoic challenge. Brandon, have you heard of the Stoic challenge?
No, but a lot of this is I'm resonating with a lot of it on how I live my life, and maintain peace.
Yeah,
But I can imagine what the Stoic challenge is based on the context. But
yeah.
you're doing phenomenal. So
Okay, so moving on. So thank you. So
Mhm.
there's a way that we can change how we respond to the world. So there was a story, another story that William talked about, and it was about a 13-year-old girl by the name of Bethany Hamilton. I don't know if you've heard about Bethany Hamilton, but what happened was she was a young surfer and was out surfing with a friend and was waiting on the next big wave, right? So with her arms draped over the surfboard, all of a sudden she noticed a flash of gray go by her. It was a shark. And then she looked over to her right and noticed that her entire arm was gone, just gone. It wasn't even there below. So without panicking, she made her way back to shore and she rushed to the hospital. But what was astonishing through this whole story was how she responded to it. So Bethany stated, this is actually on the news. Bethany stated that if you are faced with that she was faced with so many challenges at a young age, she was just trying to find out the light of hope by asking, what can I do in this moment?
Mm.
What can I do? So as soon as the doctor cleared her to surf again, she made clear intentions on finding out how to surf with one hand. So she figured out how to, and in addition to that, there was other things that she did. She figured out how to button a shirt. You know what the solution to that was? She just stopped buying shirts with buttons because she knew realistically she could not button any shirts with one hand. I mean, you can, but it will probably take her 2 hours to
Right.
to button up a shirt. So
Hmm.
she was always finding a way, and I associate that with resilience. Like, okay, I'm in a situation. Okay, this is something that I can't control, but I'm gonna find a way around it. So
Right.
Bethany also made a powerful statement, and she said she did not need easy, she just needed possible. I want y'all to think about that. She did not need easy, she needed possible. That is so profound because a lot of folks want easy. They want the easy way out of things. They want the easy way. But she just wanted a possibility to be able to still live a normal life. And that's what she did.
Mm.
She made sure she figured out how to surf with one hand and how to balance herself in a way without having two hands. And then when she bought shirts, she no longer bought shirts that were able to be buttoned. So they were all just regular shirts without buttons on them. That was her way of coping with a hardship. So when you think about that, that was her way of coping. So people like Bethany are so profound, you all, because she did not react like most of us do. She did not spend a lot of time wishing that bad things to not happen to her or anything like that. She just wanted to ensure that she found ways to overcome her setbacks. That's the main key. She just wanted to find a way, like, Lord, how am I going to overcome this? So William also started talking about Stoic philosophy. That's the reason why I asked you all earlier if you've heard about Stoic challenges. So Stoic philosophers had a tendency to get in trouble with the law and be banished. This is way back in the olden times. What Stoic philosophers specialize in is Stoicism. Have you heard of Stoicism, Brandon?
I have.
Stoicism. Okay. So Stoicism basically means an endurance of pain or hardship without the display of feelings and without complaint. So that is what a Stoicism is. So one of the Stoic philosophers he highlights is that he was sent on an island, the one that got banished, and he went into this desolate island. Like it was like barely anybody there. But in his mind, as a Stoic philosopher, he noticed that it wasn't all that bad because there were fishermen there as well who made a living. So he was on a desolate island, but he basically, I'll say it as MRT, hunting the good stuff. He was like, you know what? I know I'm on this desolate island, but you know what? I'm looking around me and I'm seeing fishermen making a living out here, right? So he made the best of the situation. So moving on with the story, he was visited a lot by his students because he was a Stoic philosopher, so he was a professor who thought that they were going to go there to cheer him up, but he would turn it around on them and cheer them up and listen to their problems and situations going on at home. So though he was the target of injustice, but he refused to play the role of victim of injustice. So I want y'all to pay attention to that. He was the target of injustice. So he got into some trouble with the law and he was banished and taken to this desolate island. That is a hardship for him. That is what a hardship was for him. But he made sure that he was a target of injustice, but he refused to play the role of victim. Like, woe is me. Oh my gosh, I'm on this desolate island. He made the best of what the situation that he was in. Even though on the outside looking in, you're like, oh my God, like he's on desolate island. His family ain't there with him. He ain't got no friends on this island. He's just out here just, it could be an emotional roller coaster for some people. But that was his way of coping with the hardships that were put in front of him. So moving on. So William stated that a victim might wallow in self-pity. A target rises and thinks, what am I going to do next in order to minimize this harm that this target has done to me? That is exactly what the philosopher did. So I'm going to read that again. A target rises and thinks, what am I going to do next in order to minimize this harm that this target has done to me, rather than be victim and just wallow in self-pity. So moving on, there were 3 techniques that this Stoic philosopher used to minimize the harm that was done to him. The first was an understanding of what he could control and what he could not control. So that's the first technique. So William stated there was a dichotomy of control. So what we have complete control over is our values, the choices we make. We have control over those things. What we do not have control over is when the sun will rise the next day, or who's gonna be in a car accident and hit you. You have no control over who's gonna hit you, but you do have control over over your values and the decisions and the choices that you make in life. So Stoic advice that he provided was not to spend time thinking about what you can't control, but think about the things that you have control over. But there is a middle category on things you have some, but not complete control over, because he wanted to highlight that. So he used an example of a tennis match. So you can't control how hard your component practices, or you can't control the weather that day, but you can control how hard you train, and then knowing the strategies for how to approach the match. So coping with a hardship is maximizing on what you can control and not really focusing on what you can't control. That is one of the techniques that is used here by William. So a Stoic will not judge on whether they won or lost the match, but they will judge on if they did the most with what they had available to them. So I want y'all to think about that. A Stoic will not judge whether they won or lost, because it's not about the win or the loss for a Stoic individual. but they will judge on if they did the most with what they had available. So if they felt like they achieved a lot by their practicing and doing their own thing, that is the highlight. I want to read what hey Timothy, he came on, he says, I agree with those statements. With Stoicism, I believe it's the matter of positivity and self-assurance. Thank you, Timothy. That is exactly what that means. That is the root of Stoicism, is kind of maximizing on how you can overcome situations that you can't control. So thank you for that, Timothy. The second technique that the Stoic philosopher used was that things could have been much worse. William stated that this is called anchoring. So I don't know if y'all know what anchoring is, but I'm going to give an example. So an example during the pandemic that we are obviously in, they would think about how things could be worse. So as we all know, we in this whole panorama, I like to call it different things to kind of folks laugh. We in the middle of a pandemonium. And with that, a Stoic during this pandemic, so if there was a Stoic philosopher here right now dealing with this pandemic, they would be thinking about how things could be worse. Even though we are in a pandemic and having to wear our mask, and there's been over 500,000 deaths due to people dying from the coronavirus, they would be thinking about, oh, well, I need to be thinking about how things could be worse. So an example situation a Stoic might think about. Have y'all heard the story of the Blitz during World War II?
Did they make a movie about it?
I want to say they did. So basically, the story of Blitz, it was during World War II, where there was an intense bombing campaign undertaken by the Nazi Germany against the UK. So he stated that in this situation, it wasn't that they. So in this situation during the Blitz during World War II, it wasn't that they were locked in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
They had to leave their homes, you all, late at night and go into a subway tunnel and sleep with hundreds of people they don't know, then go back to their homes, hoping that their homes weren't destroyed. So then it makes you think, things are not that bad. So think about this pandemic where 2020, when March hit, and all of us had to really just end our normalcy and just be stuck in the house and just be like, Lord Jesus, all the normal things that we do every day. Think about those folks that were in Germany during World War II, where they had to leave the home that they are supposed to feel safe in, go to a subway tunnel, sleep with hundreds of people, and then be like in the morning, all right, 5 a.m., let's go back to the house. Hopefully they didn't blow up my house.
Mm-hmm.
That's a far worse situation if you think about the intensity of it. I'm not saying this pandemic is any less of a catastrophe, because it is. But when you compare it to something like that, where we talking about just being locked in our homes as a as a problem, no, them people had to leave their home to ensure they weren't getting blown up. They had to leave the house. So it's a different perspective that I want you all to pay attention to. But you want to say something, Brandon?
Yeah, I think that I sort of while you were talking, I sort of had this vision of like a lock and key, or like a lock to a door. And I think for some people, that lock, when it comes to coping with hardships, is having empathy. Because in order to think about maybe somebody else's situation, like you gave the example of a time in history of families having to leave their homes and go sleep in tunnels. And so if we have empathy for other human beings who may have it worse, or we can empathize, just putting ourselves in a position in history, like the example you gave, then we'll be able to cope with our hardship, because we'll be able to tell ourselves that it's not that bad. And we'll be able to turn that into something where we're now being grateful for the current conditions, because it could be a lot worse. And at the end of the day, if, for me, I start going down a list, and very much, most often now, I don't get very far down the list before I'm just smiling and back to my normal joyous self. But, for those locked in their homes, they have a home. You probably, if you at your house, you probably got AC and electricity and heat and food, and you're probably, at least you're sheltered from the elements, and you just go down the list. But if you could never be empathetic towards somebody else's situation, it may be hard for that person to cope with hardships, because those people probably make themselves feel alone in the middle of the pandemic, when the reality is everybody else in the world is also going through this panorama as well.
And I thank you for saying panorama like me, so I'm not by myself saying,
Yeah.
panorama or pandemonium.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for that, Brandon. That's very powerful. And when I was listening to this interview, it was just so profound, because I was like, wow, those individuals did go through a hardship that I probably wouldn't be able to imagine going through. Because I'm thinking like, look, me thinking like I'm at my house where I feel like I'm locked up in prison, but you had literal people that were in Germany that had to leave their home in order to feel safe, not stay at home to avoid getting coronavirus. So those parallels of struggle is just very profound. So let me go ahead and go into the third technique. So the third technique is to learn self-control through occasional acts of self-denial. Okay, I know that sounds real crazy, but I'm gonna explain. So the third technique is to learn self-control through occasional acts of self-denial. So William calls this Stoic draining. He says it's like our biological immune system. So unless you properly develop your immune system, it will not function well. So it's kind of like, I'm gonna give this example. And this is gonna be a little bit nasty, but I'm going to give this example. It's like a kid, like your child or a kid licking the table at home. Most parents will be against it, like, stop licking that table. That is nasty. But William says, let it happen, because it can toughen the biological immune system. So you think about the bacteria that fights off different things and stuff that's in our bodies, it toughens our biological immune system. So the Stoics thought of the term emotional immune system. You have to train it. You do have to train this emotional immune system. So a way to do that is by experiencing things that are going to make you unhappy. You're going to have to experience things that make you unhappy. And also with that, you got to go out of your way to go through it so you can develop your emotional immune system. That's just, it's kind of like facing your issues head on and not trying to negate that there's a problem. Because I hate to say it, but there are a lot of folks that try to act like everything's fine, but at the root of it, they got a lot going on. So it's kind of facing your issues head on and saying, there is an issue, I recognize it and acknowledge it. That is how you can develop your emotional immune system. So he stated, oh, you want to say something? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I think that I like this whole camera thing, because I could just do that whenever you talk. I just think too, there's a lot of barriers to experiencing things that make you unhappy. Sometimes those things could be in a marriage or relationship, family members, when somebody's telling you who you're being towards them and you don't want to accept that. Once again, empathy or being empathetic to someone else's feelings. If you're not in that moment, then you're going to stop your own growth. You're going to stop the personal growth. Like Andre, how old are you, Andre?
I am 34.
And I'm 38. And I would say, like, the age we're now, a lot of times people aren't changing much anymore outside of a significant emotional event. So if you have people who, feel a certain way about themselves or have this certain self-image, and that image is not, the reality of who they're being, then it's going to be some issues and some problems when it comes to their relationships. I think the other barrier to experiencing things that make you unhappy is, being honest. And I don't bash no religion or anything like that, but what I'm seeing from individuals who attend church buildings is that there's often a tendency to deny what that person is going through. So they'll post things on Facebook like everything is all good. They'll be living inauthentically. So their social media is one thing, but their real life is another thing. And that's not just people who attend church buildings. So let me not just single them out, but that's humans. That's the generation we live in, where a lot of things are for likes and clicks, but that's not really how their life is. And I would challenge those people to not live that way. Experience the things that make you unhappy so you can grow from them, and then in turn be more empathetic to other people, be more kind, be more loving, and all of that can add up to you being a more grateful person.
Thank you for that, Brandon. Very powerful there. I want to read Starsha's comment. She said that makes sense. The first step is fixing your problem. The first step to fixing your problem is admitting you have one, and that's basically what the Stoic said, or what William said, is that you got to put yourself in a situation where something can go wrong, and just kind of sitting in that, because that is how you develop your emotional immune system. So he also stated to think about someone who lives in a palace, or someone who has never had anything go wrong. All it will take is a baby setback, and that person is going to be a basket case. They are going to be all over the place, because it's like, what in the world is this? This is not my world. Like, what? If you think about an individual that is always going out and finding ways to be uncomfortable, they are going to take things in stride. And this is
Mm-hmm.
something that he stated. This is something that William stated. And I thought that was profound, because kind of like what I stated earlier, it's very important that we as individuals recognize the problem and any problem that we're going through, because it builds our emotional immune system. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you are in denial about that, then there's no way that immune system can function properly. So now in this interview, though, William received pushback, because the interviewer stated that telling folks to think like they could be thinking like that could be a form of gaslighting. So the interviewer basically was like, hold on, hold on, hold on. That can look like gaslighting. The interviewer said we could be telling them that terrible things do happen to them, but if you are unhappy, it is your fault because you are not acting properly to your setbacks. So he pushed back in the interview. So he was asked if there is a risk of blaming the victim, but blaming the individual for feeling how they feel. So this is what his answer was. His answer was, he answered by saying that if you want to flourish as a human being, there is an extent to where you have to take responsibility for that life. So he stated that there are things that you cannot control. So going back to stuff you can control and stuff you can't control, right? So you have to deal with them to the best of your ability. So Stoics, he emphasized that Stoics just emphasize that most of the damage that they do to you is not the event itself, but the reaction to the event. So all Everett just came on saying, sorry, gentlemen, this storm is causing havoc with my internet. Cannot stay connected. Hope to see you again soon. Yes, Everett. Yeah, the storm has been kind of scary for Brandon as well, because he was worried about his Wi-Fi tripping.
Yeah, but it's working.
It's working, yeah. But yeah, hopefully we see you next time. We're gonna be doing a pop-up this week, and we're gonna be coming up again next Sunday with another topic. So back to the topic. So William used Martin Luther King Jr. as an example of that statement that he made. He was a target. Think about this. He said he was a target of considerable discrimination. Like, it was a whole bunch of discrimination. He refused to play victim, though. He found a way to minimize the harm it did to him personally, and he used that energy he would have spent feeling beat down and applied it to starting a movement. So I want y'all to think about that. This is back in the 50s and 60s. He found a way to minimize the harm it did to him and use that energy that he could have been using, beating himself up, and applied it to starting a movement. So William wanted to talk a little deeper about Stoicism. So he elaborated on the lowercase s of Stoicism and an uppercase s for Stoicism. So this is all coming from William. So he says the lowercase s is a person who stands there and takes whatever life has to throw at them and doesn't show any emotion towards it. That's the lowercase s for Stoicism. The uppercase s kind of ties into what Timothy Gorman said. I don't know if Timothy's still on. So the uppercase s is the Roman Stoics. And it wasn't that they suppressed emotions, but they tried to stop experiencing negative emotions like anger, frustration, anxiety, and envy, but had nothing against experiencing positive emotions. So they had a reputation for being very cheerful individuals. So just kind of wanted to highlight what he said in reference to that. So William discussed also with coping with hardships, the gap theory of happiness to cope with hardships. So William discussed gap theory of happiness. He stated that it means um, a person that recognizes the existence of a gap of what they have and then what they want. So they are convinced that happiness can come to them if they close the gap. They are essentially happy, but they realize that there are more steps to really embracing happiness. So I'm going to go into those steps. So the insight that the Stoics had is that there is a second way to close the gap, not just looking at what you have and then what you want, but there's something that's done in the middle. So it is to learn how to want what you already have. It is to learn how to want what you already have. A way to look into that is to use negative visualization. Look at things that you normally take for granted, like in this pandemic. There's a lot of things that we've taken for granted pre-pandemic. Now that we're not taking for granted anymore because we've lost access to those things. So you don't dwell on losing the things you value, but you visualize that person missing for just 1 second. But once you encounter that person, you are happy to see them. So an example of that is losing a person by death or realizing that a family member or a friend is hospitalized, the fear of losing them, like all these different things you want to visualize. That's the negative visualization that you have. You already have it, but visualize that thing being gone. Okay. Let me go ahead and plug my laptop real quick because the battery. Hold on one second. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I was just going to add that, you kind of hit on it, and I was just going to make it a little bit more direct, and that is using negative visualization, you'll be able to put your brain, your mind, your heart, you'll be able to put it on the road to appreciation, to appreciating the time that you have with people, to appreciating your mind, your body, your heart, your health, to appreciating these kinds of things, because that all ties back into the whole being empathetic towards someone else, and that's what I was just going to add, that negative visualization will help you be more appreciative of what you have.
Thank you for that, Brandon. So William also discussed another way to cope with hardship, and he calls this last time meditation. Powerful. It is a way to put yourself in the moment. Whatever it is you are doing, imagine it being the last time you are doing that. So for everything you do, there is a last time you will do it. We are all mortals. We are not immortal. We are all mortals, right? So there will be a last time you eat dinner. There will be a last time you lay your head on your pillow. There will be and take your last breath. So don't dwell on those things, okay? But if you occasionally allow yourself to have that thought, it has this psychologically transformative power, right? To savor what you are doing even more. So I call that, well, William calls it last time meditation. That is a way to cope with hardships. Oh, I see. Okay, I see Lakeisha Coffee. Hey. Oh, I'm sorry, I know her. So William is the author of the book, The Stoic Challenge. In his book, he talks about how he had a horrendous flight with a connection in Chicago. So this is a story that was kind of entertaining to me. So the plane he was on announced that they were having issues closing the cargo door to secure the luggage. So that was the first announcement. And the second announcement came out saying that they were unable to fix the cargo door and that they would have to fly out the next morning and were offered a hotel room. Okay. So he felt like he was being tested. He was like, okay, listen, I am a Stoic philosopher and here I am being tested. In real
Mhm.
life, this is what he specializes in. He is a professor of philosophy, especially dealing with Stoic philosophy. So he was like, okay, he said, I'm being tested. And he endured another negative situation. So he arrives at the hotel and got assigned a room just to find out that as he enters the room was not cleaned up from the last person that stayed there. The bed wasn't made, um, towels, bath towels and all that was on the ground and stuff. So he went back to the front desk and was given a new room to stay in. So what he was doing during this whole time was just remaining calm. He was like, I'm not going to allow these situations that I can't control. Once again, you got to think these are all situations that he had no control over get to him. But he maximized on everything by what? Staying calm throughout.
Mhm.
Because he was controlling the choices that he made in reference to the situations that were at hand that he was facing.
Mm.
So he realized that he was playing mental games with himself and decided to say that this was a challenge as to how he will deal with these things coming his way. So in his book, he also talks about the value of humor. He stated that if you laugh off the insult that's given to you, the insult ceases to be a problem for you. So if someone says something and you go on as if they didn't say anything, most people will be like, okay, did he even hear me? So some will say the insult again. So your response could be, oh, I heard you the first time, and then just move on about your day. That's
Mhm.
an effective way to move on from the insult. Because what you're doing is you're controlling the narrative on how you're dealing with that emotion in reference to the insult. You didn't
Mhm.
allow the insult to overpower your own judgment on how you are dealing with the situation. So that's another way to cope with. Well, that's not a setback, but I'll call that a hardship because you may be at work when you're being insulted, or you may be being bullied, or just move on from it. Pretend it doesn't even affect you. So he
Mhm.
highlights the pandemic, and he feels like it is important to notice that this pandemic is a brutal substitute for negative visualization. It showed us what it feels like to be deprived of the things you appreciate. So he highlighted that the interesting thing about this pandemic is how people are going to respond to it after the pandemic is gone.
Mhm.
He feels like it won't take long. He kept it real. He feels like it won't take long for people to take what they missed out on for granted again. This is his philosophy. He's thinking like, you know what? Right now, we are all embracing the things that we can't have right now. We're appreciating the things that we didn't have. But after this is over and we have access to those things again, he strongly feels like it will not take long for people to take what they missed out on for granted. So
Mhm.
what we find ourselves taking for granted, you can reflect back on the pandemic and how we felt back then. Then we can renew the connection with a variety of relationships.
Mhm.
So this was his final message, and I'll be done. So his final message was that we all have one life to live. We have to actively think about what we need to do in order to embrace the one life we have. If we spend that life wishing you were living someone else's life, it's a waste. We need to learn how to appreciate what we got, learn how to savor our existence, our environment, our family, and our friends. Once you do that, you can have the fullest life that's possible to have. And the motto that I'm going to give you all from this whole entire topic with coping with hardship is minimizing the pain, maximizing joy. And that's all I got for coping with hardship. So Brandon, go ahead and talk to us.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you, Andre. Um, that was amazing, as usual. And I think that you have given some great wisdom and shared, from a great mind. I mean, we heard about a Stoic philosopher being given a dirty hotel room and being able to maintain his cool. A woman who lost her arm, and these are drastic things that can happen to somebody on their life. I mean, I'm sure this man was tired. He wanted to get to where he wanted to get to, and then somebody who's a surfer losing an arm, trying to figure out how they're going to live their life or do basic things that we do all day, like open a car door with our keys in our hand, or taking some groceries, inside the house. You ever seen those memes where they're like, "Hey, I'm taking one trip," and they're like, "You got the 12 bags." So obviously, these are things that people have faced in life, and some of us have faced these things, some of us haven't. Um, but with the attitude of coping with hardship, I would say that um, this has been something personally, and we've shared, how we've dealt with the pandemic, but coping with hardship, I think, has been made a little bit easier. And I can speak for Andre a little bit on this and say that because we have a relationship with the Most High, like we allow Him to direct and shift our lives and shift our relationships. Because I think, really, if I was to summarize this point of coping with hardship, it is control the things that you can control, even your relationships. And oftentimes, I feel like we as humans are given too much onus, given too much emphasis to people who are probably never going to respect us or never going to love us the way that we should be loved or the way we deserve to be loved. And we can oftentimes value them or value something more than that thing can give us value. And I think that's when things become unbalanced. And that makes the things that are going to happen outside of our control, the things that's just life, that makes that so much harder to cope with. If you're having stress at your work, stress in your marriage, stress in your family, what part of that, I would say, is any of it that you can control? And the first place to start, Andre, you just told us, is our response. How do we respond to these situations? So you can get upset and be bothered that you're being disrespected or you're not being loved the way you need to be loved, but what else after that? And so to me, that's where I believe it's important to submit that to the Most High. And I say it every show, and it's going to be up there probably to the end of 2021. But on my board back there, um, it says stratagem, and that's a Latin term, and it meant a military plot. Basically, it's where we get the word strategy from. And so I'm always praying about what should my strategy be to handle these things, because some battles are going to be a long battle. Some battles are going to be something that the Most High put you in, and He's going to carry you through it. Some of them are going to be ones that you're not going to be able to do nothing about. And oftentimes, I would say that that's the strong battle. Um, and I would be remiss if I didn't give you at least a couple scriptures. 1 Peter 5:7, cast all your anxiety on Him because He cares for you. The Most High told us that we would surely have troubles and trials and tribulations in this world. And He said, but fear not, for I have overcome them. Another verse, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but He has delivered us from them all. So look at the people. Um, Look at the people, and I'm going to bring Andre back right after I say this, but look at the people in the world who really caused and fought for change. The people who were righteous with their motives, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, we can keep going. But those people often, you know, became enemies to the status quo. To like now, it's becoming, the truth is becoming more. How do I even say this? The truth is becoming more of a problem than um, the actions that happen because of lies. For example, if you go look at the church that the gentleman went to in Georgia, who Crabapple or whatever it's called, that church was preaching messages that feminism is evil, and it's destroying America and all these kind of things. It was very fundamentalist, radicalized sermons in which, you know, people were listening to that this young man attended. And what I found interesting is that the Young Turks reported that that church is now taking down those sermons from online. So when we look at the situation, like to tie that to this whole topic, when we look at coping with hardships, like that sermon, the way it was preached, the sex addiction issues, if he had those or not, I'm not sure. That's what was reported. But the issues and the way that those sermons were preached, it was made that someone else is the problem for your sex addiction. It was made that, you know, to where he had, in order to cope with his hardship, he was directed to go and felt motivated to go do what he did, which was shoot up these Asian spas where he allegedly, you know, would go to, you know, have sex activities or whatever. But see, we can get this all twisted based on the way that we respond to our hardship. The way you respond to it and the way that you take control and take responsibility of it can either be a detriment to other people or a detriment to yourself. And now lives are lost because someone listened to some sermons where they said fundamentalist feminism is of the devil. And so look at how when we respond in our individual lives to these challenges, how much power we have by minimizing the attitudes of disrespect, or minimizing that verbal threat, or somebody calling you a racial slur. By minimizing the power and your response to that, you're essentially taking your power back. And now that person is confused, and maybe they'll think twice about using those type of terms next time. But I mean, there's so many scriptures. I think the message of the gospel is central to coping with hardship. From Genesis to Revelation, we can see that the Most High had a plan, and he set up this world so that we could be victorious. You know what I'm saying? From the beginning to the end, we can see his hand in everything. And I want to challenge people to not just go to a church building, or to not just to listen to a pastor, but when you read for yourself, I think it becomes life transforming and life changing. And the latest study that I did for about a year was the book of Revelation. And in reading that, I didn't try to figure out what time it was. I didn't try to figure out, make a chart and try to figure out, okay, does this mean this and this mean? I just read it. And what's so crazy is in the first chapter, that's how it opens. It says, blessed is the man, or blessed is the one who reads this book of prophecy. So just by reading it, you get a blessing. And what I felt from it was the fact that whatever comes my way in this world, I can make it through. Whatever comes my way. And it prepares you to let you know that, and I hate to sound like a Debbie Downer or whatever, but it talks about the love of many waxing cold. The scriptures let you know that these kind of things is going to continue to wax worse. Inequality ain't going nowhere. Racism probably ain't going nowhere. And it's just only going to expand. In the book of Revelation, it also talks about not harming the oil and the wine. And many theologians are saying that not harming the oil and the wine, when the scriptures say that, is basically showing that even in the last days, up until the Most High getting ready to come back, in our brother, his son, Yahusha, inequality is still going to exist. And so when we look at our world, it's vital that we learn healthy ways to cope with hardships. For me, it's therapy, or going to the gym, or eating healthy, getting enough sleep, taking my vitamins. If you take medication, take your medications, doing all the things that you can do to live a healthy life, and the things that you can't. That's why the Most High said, get us off them. Andre, remember in the conversation earlier this week, I said, there's one thing I know for sure. Every human will be crushed under the weight of their own burdens. Every single human being, because we were not meant to carry our burdens. That's why, we're supposed to cry. Why do we, if we see, Andre, if you seen somebody, if I start crying right now, or if I was there with you and I just start crying, what would you do?
Oh my gosh, I would instantly grab on you, like, come
See,
on.
yeah, right? Right.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because that is the nature that's built within us, that's given from our creator to want to console. It's not natural to not want to console somebody. It's not natural to not ask them what's going on. And sometimes maybe our response in coping with hardship, if it's dealing with a coworker or somebody who's just an ornery person, maybe we sometimes, and this is to myself too, we need to ask them like, are you all right? Is everything okay? Because it's just certain things that just should not be, and maybe we could be facilitators of that person learning healthier ways to cope with their hardship. Like, hey, I know you're going through divorce, but don't call me out my name. You know what I mean? Like, this is a professional environment. Hey, I know that maybe the last people who were here, you talked to them that way, but sir, I would appreciate if you had a better tone. And is everything all right? Just responding that way, because see, now you address the issue, but you also made room that you're showing empathy, and now you have the power to really influence and change the situation. Because if what we're doing with this show is we're uplifting and edifying you, and our goal is that you go out and do the same thing in your communities, and that's what we're doing in our communities, in our workplaces. And so, since we know and we're learning and we're applying how to cope with hardships, we're also asking you, if you know how to do it very well, maybe help the people that are around you, and that will pay dividends. You know what I mean? That will pay dividends. You'll be in a better work environment. That person may come back and thank you. Maybe they need prayer. Maybe they're being crushed under the weight of their own burdens, and nobody has asked them what's going on. And they're on the outside, on the shell, they're showing that everything is all good, but it's really not. And so I would say, just with this topic here, coping with hardships is something that is like a muscle. And the more you continue to just find out how you can be grateful, and the more you make decisions that are healthy, and ones that are conducive to a good quality of life, I think you're gonna be all right. We've gone over some great things that you can apply to your life and to your family, your friends. What's up, C Breezy? And I think that if you apply these things, and it's not bad, I should say this too. It's not bad to be stoic. It's not bad to be slow to anger and slow to speak. To take a second, pause, take a deep breath before you respond to something, or even distance yourself from a situation until you can respond to it in a healthy way. So, I think coping with hardships is a very on time and relevant topic. Thank you, Andre, for picking this topic. And I think it's something that we just all need to keep in the back of our minds. And I would say, let's utilize coping with hardships the way we do drivers, right? Like, I'm gonna use my signal. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to drive, and I'm not going to drive reckless. I'm going to drive careful enough. I can't do nothing about the way the other drivers are handling their situation, but I can drive in such a way where I'm not being reckless or an endangerment to someone else.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you for that, Brandon. Providing that spiritual aspect in those amazing scriptures. I what I do kind of want to talk about is from personal experience. Um, Not coping with hardships, but coping with an insult.
Mm,
Brandon, you know about it because I talked to you about this actual insult. And I mean, I'm not going to say this person's name because they're not relevant enough for me to say their name.
mm,
This person, I know that was shady. Uh, this individual, so there's an individual. I posted a picture of myself in my civilian clothes attire because at work, I am now able to wear, because I'm in the military, obviously, as most of you all know, and I'm active duty. So I have to wear my uniform Monday through Friday. But after talking to my boss, my amazing boss, he said, you know what? We all gonna come into work every Friday in civilian clothes. Of course, dressy casual, not no like, jeans and a t-shirt.
right.
I was in my little outfit and, I posted it on Facebook. So maybe about 5 or 6 hours after I posted it, I had a comment. Now I had nothing but love. I had a lot of likes on that picture, which I'm like blown away. But I mean, hey, maybe people missed me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so one of my Facebook friends, that's what I'll say about this individual. He's a Facebook friend. He commented, I'm not going to go into the specifics of what he said, but basically he said, I'm going to kind of paraphrase. He said, I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I'm just trying to figure out if you have either, I'm trying to figure out if you've sold yourself to the devil, sold your soul to the devil, because what's going on? I need you to start aging. Start aging. You're making this all look bad. So for me, it was a backhanded compliment because you are identifying that I look young for my age, but then you tell me to start aging, which I am aging. But then you turn around and said, "Have I sold my soul to the devil?" as to why I'm still looking young. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not understanding how me selling my soul to the devil got anything to do with my black don't crack. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
So I was insulted by that because I did deploy with this individual. We went to Iraq together. This is someone that I would not have expected a comment to come out that way. So my coping with that insult was not to say anything. Of course, I told a couple of my friends. I did call Brandon right away, send him the screenshot and all that. But I was upset. I was visually upset about it, but the way I coped with it was I didn't reply. I skipped his reply
Mm-hmm.
on my Facebook pic and just said thank you very much to everyone else that gave me actual adequate and beautiful love over my photo. Like for you to say did you sell your soul to the devil? Like
Mm-hmm.
not understanding that, I don't know if he meant it as a joke, I guess, but that's still a very inappropriate thing to ask someone.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that I look young. So
Mm-hmm.
I did have a friend clap back at him for saying it. But for me, I just decided to not say nothing. A part of me wanted to say something. I was asking Brandon, like, what do I say? And then after talking to Brandon, I was like, you know what? There's nothing. I don't need to say anything. I need
Right.
to talk to you all that are watching on the Biblical
Mm-hmm.
show of coping with hardship and
Mm-hmm.
coping with insults and coping with people that are obnoxious and immature. So how can I sit here and talk to you all about how to cope with difficulties that you face in your life, and I'm over here clapping back at people that are not relevant? Like,
Right.
no reason for me to invest my energy into something like that. So I just wanted to point that out, that while me and Brandon are here talking to you all about, us giving you the academia and the spiritual aspect of these topics, we are both facing things in our lives as well. And I can
Mm-hmm.
be very transparent and provide from personal experience and stuff. But in order for me to be able to, and for Brandon and I to be able to talk to you all and give you all a perspective that you may not have seen before or even knew of, I got to make sure I'm walking in the best way possible. Yes, I'm shady. Yes, and I can be a little bit petty,
You are you are
but
not you are not shady, and you are not petty.
okay,
You might think you are, but you ain't.
I'm not.
Um, you
Oh,
you know, as one other thing I was thinking of spiritually, because I'll be praying like about who's gonna see this, who's gonna watch it, and I really just feel this weight of maybe the biggest hardship that people are dealing with right now is relationships where they were taken for granted. You know what I'm saying? Like, and maybe just like you said, like I can vibe, I can feel, I can empathize because I've been there. And Andre, you have been there as well. And I think with this pandemic, what it has done is shined a light on those one-sided relationships and even meeting new people and things like that, where they're trying to, where people ain't meeting you halfway, Andre. You ain't got to tell that story, but like, it's like how people, think they can treat you. And then what I find even more interesting about it is sometimes these are the people who've been in your life for 10 years plus. And it's like, and for me, like I'm going to keep talking about it because I love these individuals, but at the same time, I love myself more. I love my respecting myself. I love respecting my space. And I think we should start thinking about things like this. Why would you sin against yourself? To allow certain people to exist in your space and treat you how they want to treat you and treat you less than you deserve to be treated or respected. Why are you doing that to yourself? And I feel, I said this on the pop-up show, I'll say it again too. I feel like us as Black folks. This could be anybody too, but I feel like us as Black folks, we're always expected to be the person who pursues peace and meekness, and we're always to be the bigger person and to accept apologies that ain't really apologies. You know what I'm saying? To accept just being treated any kind of way, and I feel like society trying to make us think that that's the norm. And I would say that's what Martin Luther King didn't do, and that's what Malcolm X did not do. Is allow Black folk to be treated the way we're treated, and let that be the socialized norm.
Right. They went against the grain. I want to
Yeah.
restart the comment because she's hilarious. She says, "One day I hope I can be that grown. God's still working on me because I would have said something just as ignorant." So, Starsha, I thank you because Starsha is one of the most coolest friends I have. And yes, I could see Starsha definitely going in. But in that situation though, I just really had to, and I'm talking to you, Starsha, as well. I feel like in that situation, I was like, I am better off being silent than giving it energy. Like I
Yeah.
want, don't get me wrong, Starsha, I want to go there. I wanted to be like, I'm aging gracefully, unlike you, who look like a walrus. I mean, I could have said that. That's what I wanted to say. That he looked like a walrus. That's what I wanted to say. So we can be real, and I can tell you what I wanted to say. But
But
I said, you know what? I'm not giving that energy. So I kept that negative, the anger, the frustration. I kept all that to myself and said, I'm not releasing that out into the atmosphere, and I'm not putting it on my social media because my social media is all about positivity, and y'all know how my social media is. I am all about uplifting and edifying, but also I'm about peace and harmony on my page.
mhm,
That's my way. So if someone is going against the grain that I have set on my page, I chose to
mhm.
ignore it and move on from it. So that's essentially what I did. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And,
thank you so much for that. Thank you.
well, and how did that make you feel?
It made me feel good yesterday. So this comment was made on Friday. Yeah, I posted it on Friday and I was in my feelings. And then the next day was when I felt vindicated. I guess that's the word I want to use. Because
Mhm,
I was like, wow, I literally did not respond to him. And
mhm,
I felt like I felt like I was on the throne because I was like, you know what? I did not stoop down to his level by saying
mhm.
something, even though I had a comeback in my head. I just told y'all what it was. Yes, I'm aging gracefully while you're looking like a walrus. So for me, I had a response.
Mhm.
I just decided not to say nothing. And the next day I felt good. I was like, wow. And then I had a friend clap back at him for me. She didn't have to do that. Shout out to my friend, amazing friend Danielle, who stepped in and shaded him. But I was like, you know, Danielle had that. I don't need to engage because because I would further escalate it if I were to
Mhm.
engage. And I think a lot of people know. And I think this is another thing that I want to say because Brandon, I think you have a good point in saying that I'm really actually not really that shady and that petty
Mhm.
because my friends on Facebook are people that I have know personally, and I know all of them can tell you that I am not a mean person. I'm willing to bet you if you ask all of my Facebook friends, is Andre mean? You'd be like, what? Andre mean? I don't have a mean bone in my body. So
Mhm.
I think that that individual knew that I wasn't going to respond or interact, so he felt comfortable enough to say it. So there's those onesies and twosies that just feel the need, or he felt the need to exercise that because he knew I wasn't going to say nothing.
Yeah.
So that's all. I don't want to delve into the whole my insult, but
Yeah, and I think too, like what you did was, I think you redirected it. I mean, he did compliment you. It's what you choose to focus on in that statement. It's less about what he meant about it and what he's trying to say. But it also would make me upset because, like, I mean, if he looks at your page, like just selling my soul to the devil. It's interesting too, like what, I'd be making connections, um, like the whole Lil Nas X thing. Like selling your soul to the devil. It's in all the songs from Michael Jackson to Call Me Maybe to Kanye, and like it's just very. interesting. And what I don't see anything about you, Andre, even if you weren't open about having a relationship with the Most High, that would make you think you sold your soul to the devil. So um, I guess it just shows where he's at spiritually, and I will pray for him. Um, but I mean, before we go, what do you think about that Lil Nas X situation?
So I haven't really heard a whole lot. So I know that is it a video that he did, and he
Yeah,
was Aaron, and there's a lot of I didn't even have to read the article or read up on it to know that Lil Nas X is just, oh
yeah,
Lord, like
yeah. So like I mean, he made a statement, and I don't really want to comment on the video. The video is a video. This ain't the first satanic video. I
I
mean,
saw clips of it, and I was like, oh no.
yes. So I don't even want to comment on the video, but what I do want to comment on is the shoes. And I guess he just issued apology for the shoes. But the shoes there's going to be 666 pairs. There's a pentagram on it. It's red ink and one drop of human blood in each shoe.
Oh my gosh.
And they're going to be Nike shoes. And it's just like, to me, I don't care what about the specifics. Like, I guess Nike made the shoes, but this company bought them from Nike and then did all. I don't care about none of that. It's just the fact of the matter that that's a thing, and Lil Nas is promoting that. We could talk about the video because this wouldn't be the first satanic video. Most of hip hop nowadays is satanic, from Rick Ross to
And
everybody be satanic anyway. But and so I'm not making no excuse for the video. I'm just saying I'm less people gonna watch it, people ain't gonna watch it. He did have, and also my thing is, so he made it as a clapback to the church on basically them saying, you gay and you going to hell and all this stuff. And so he did this as a thing to, like, I guess, get back at them.
yeah, I saw tweets of him saying like, "Y'all mad? Yeah, be mad because I was mad when y'all was doing me wrong." So
Yeah.
it was a clapback at the
Yeah.
gospel.
And so, and I can see that, and the church definitely needs to own that. And I don't, understand how people don't understand that we don't choose our sexuality as human beings. Yet, with all the studying and all the learning and all the degrees,
All the science.
all the science, like, you didn't choose your sexuality, you was born with it, just the same way you was born with your organs. Like, you was born with them. Now, what you decide to do with them, that's on you. But yeah, I just think that we're living in a strange time, and it's time to acknowledge that all of this is spiritual. Everything. What we're talking about, what coping with hardships is talking about, is your emotions. Your emotions are connected to spirit, to your mind. That's why people who are smiling and joyous and are happy, and like, you can't, if you ever mad, and I feel like I'm starting to ramble, so I'm wrapping it up. But if you ever mad, just go like this and see how long you can be mad for. You are not going to stay mad, just cheesing it. Try it next time somebody does something to make you mad. That's another thing of laughter, right? Like, somebody insults you and you just laugh and just walk the other way. But try smiling.
Just to be like,
And you might feel like you're being petty because it's not the proper response, but you're preserving your purpose.
I'm gonna show you my pearly white.
Huh?
I said, I'm gonna show you my pearly white.
Yeah. Just smile, just like that, and you'll feel better about any situation that you're in, even if it's just temporary. But I would admonish everybody to try that. Once again, Andre, you did a phenomenal job. Coping with hardships.
Thank you, Brandon. So on that note, this concludes our episode of Coping with Hardships. We would like to thank you for watching. Please share this post
Yes.
on your platforms.
Do it.
Please
Do
share.
it.
And we also want to announce that we do have a email address now. So our email address, if you want to email us any prayer requests or just any personal experiences that you want to share with us, we share a email account, so we both will see the email. Email us at vibepoliticalshow@gmail.com. That is our email address, vibepoliticalshow@gmail.com.
Can you say it one more time?
vibepoliticalshow@gmail.com. That is our email address. If you want to email us with any requests, if you want to share a story, maybe you want to write it to us and you want us to share it with um, on the live session, we can do that too. And you want to remain anonymous, that's fine too. Any stories you may not want to talk about, out when, because we do have guests that come on to the show. But if you want to just share a story and you just want to remain anonymous, you want to tell us who you are, but you don't want to tell you don't want us to tell everybody else, we can do that as well. So prayer requests, any stories you want to share through email, any way you want to reach us, any way you want to reach us, that is how you can reach out to us. So, yeah. Are there any final words before we go?
I don't think so, but I think maybe we should hit them with what we're gonna talk about next week.
No.
We ain't doing that.
We doing
that.
Man, it's too early.
We doing that on the pop up.
Yes, Thursday on the pop up. We gonna let them know what we're doing.
I was about to hit the button too.
I know. No, it's too early. So
Okay.
me and Brandon have been talking about like when we're gonna announce the next topic, and I don't want to release that way too early. I want to leave some suspense in there. So when we do our pop up Thursday, you will know what we're gonna talk about Sunday. So that gives you 4 days to kind of know what to prepare for.
I like that too.
Yeah, not a whole week early. No, we don't. Because you, and another reason why I'm defending that even more is because Brandon, a shout out to him, he creates some amazing graphics with this stuff. He creates so this Cold War Hardships backdrop you see in the back behind us, that is him. So I don't want us to give away our new topic now, and it's a whole nother week before we talk about it. So I want y'all to see it on Thursday, so y'all can be prepared to see it as a backdrop on Sunday.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yes. So now, if you want to close out with what we just talked about, maybe.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Show that one again.
Show that one again with the music and stuff.
Hey.
Yeah. So, Brandon, if you don't have anything,
I don't.
I would like to thank you all. Like we said, just please share this on your platforms and encourage folks to follow us. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. We love y'all dearly, and we'll see y'all next time.
Yes, and thank you for the people who are liking, sharing, and commenting, and the people who are already following us. See y'all on Thursday for the pop-up. And here's our graphic.